Okay, today I want to share with you guys one of the best sources for truth that I have found. I've been following Gateway Pundit for over 5 years now, and I have found them to be a reliable and fair source. I have with me today the owner and one of the best researchers on the planet, Jim Hoft. Jim, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Stephen, I'm really glad to be here with you today. Thank you for inviting me.
So, I just want to say thank you guys for being such a great source of truth. My wife introduced me to you guys about 5 years ago. And then, because of Twitter and everything going on with the country, suppression, the lack of freedom of speech, I lost contact with you guys. And then, about 3 years ago, I came across you again. I've been following you ever since. So, the American people are tired of being lied to. We're being fed truth, lies, and half truths. And so I would like to pick your brain as someone who has been in the arena. You're an arena man. You've been in the trenches, helping people understand the truth. About 70% of Americans believe the United States is heading in the wrong direction. Why do you think that is? And what are the major issues, in your opinion, that are contributing to that unhappiness?
That's a great question, Stephen. Um, I would say that people understand it's going in the wrong direction, not because what the media is telling them. Just as you opened up and said, the media isn't telling you that the inflation rates are so high still, and that it's very difficult for middle class families to stay ahead. That most middle class families are dipping into their savings, or they're using credit cards to get by, but everybody feels it and everybody sees it when they go still to the gas pump. As a point of reference, when Trump left office in 2021, the gas per gallon was, I think, around two bucks, around there, and then it skyrocketed to $5 a gallon. Then Joe Biden tapped into the reserves. The reserves have been depleted. A significant amount of the reserves has been depleted to try to. He did this to try to bring down gas prices. It worked for a while, but the gas prices still have never come down to where they were. Same thing with inflation. Joe Biden takes over. The inflation rate starts going up. They're spending like drunken sailors, is the expression. Drunken Democrats, I'll say. And but the Republicans are just as guilty, it looks like. But they said that inflation rate was transitory. It goes up to 8-9%. It wasn't transitory. It increased every month for a year. And anybody with basic economic background would know that when you keep, spending like this, it's going to have some repercussions. That was one of them. It's down now to, I think, 3%, but that's still more than a point higher than what it was when Trump left office. People feel these things. I think they also see people who are paying attention. They see just really some unprecedented actions we've seen by the government. And we reported on this today, and we do every day at Gateway Pundit. But today we found out that Don Jr. now is going to be called into New York courthouse to testify in the family's business. They're being attacked by Letitia James, who has a vendetta against Trump. She has since before she even got into office. And there is no case there. The Trumps paid back every loan they took. This is what they're trying to say, is that Trump was lying to get loans. Well, they paid back every loan. All the banks said they would. I don't know about all, but the banks did say that they would certainly loan him money in the future, because his money, it was a good investment for them. In this same lawsuit, they value Mar-a-Lago, and I'm not sure if your audience has seen pictures of Mar-a-Lago, but it's one of the premier properties in the whole country in Palm Beach, Florida, where the properties there go up to 50 million and more. And here's Mar-a-Lago with a seaside view, and then the intercoastal view, and the big palace. Wonderful place, historic mansion. They say it's worth 18 million. complete joke. I mean, it's just such a joke.
Yeah.
And I actually saw an media outlet in the past couple of days say, "Oh, well, that's probably about right." No, it's not. Anybody with any sense of real estate would understand that that property is worth. I would say, Trump says 500,000 or 500,000,000. I think it's at least 100 million. I mean, it's just it's a historic sized, beautiful place. I'm actually going there tonight, by the way,
Oh, okay.
to watch Police State, that one movie that's out by Dinesh D'Souza. So I'll be there. But so anyway, this lawsuit is going on against Trump. Today they say they're going to call in Don Jr., his son, and this is unprecedented in American history. They're attacking President Trump, his business, now his sons, his family. They're harassing the family. And the media, the dishonesty of the media, by the way, it's not just what they tell you that's wrong. It's not just what they don't tell you. But then it's days like today where they pretend like this is completely normal. This family needs to go into court and testify because they're a corrupt family. They don't tell you any of the background information. We've never seen this before with a family. We know the Bidens, I'm sure your audience is aware of the Bidens working with all of these different foreign regimes and getting paid money. They don't have any products to sell. They're not like Trump, where he has golf courses and clothing lines and these beautiful resorts. No, the Bidens have nothing except access to government and access to politicians to make policy in their favor. And yet they're not being charged. They're not even being subpoenaed, which is another problem in America today. Republicans are so weak. They can't even subpoena the Bidens. But I just thought today was just devastating to see that they're going after the family now. They want to ruin this man, ruin his family, and make an example out of them that if you ever stand up against this regime, against the elites, the Washington elites, that this is what's going to happen to you and your family. And I can contest to that. Being a prominent conservative voice, we currently have over 10 lawsuits that have been filed against us. Actually, we filed a few ourselves, and we're fighting back and winning in some arenas. But this is what you get when you're a conservative voice today. You get demonetized, as you said, you get censored, you get lawsuits. And so they make it very difficult for average Americans to stand up and create a website that's just going to report the truth about what's going on, and they make it impossible for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that they want Ivanka to come in, even though she's outside of the time frame that they can even question her. Judge Ergenon's like, I don't really care, bring her in. Now they're going after Don Jr. Where's Hunter Biden? Why is he not being brought in to be asked questions about, bringing in millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars for himself and the big guy, Joe? James has been cashing in, Frank, they're all cashing in. And like you say, they have nothing to offer except for perceived access to Joe Biden or direct access to Joe Biden in the case of all of the perfectly timed calls during business meetings, being on Air Force Two to get a free ride to China. It's just absolute insanity. But you know what? As you were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like financial assassination. This is character assassination. It's almost like when the CIA and others took out Kennedy to show all future presidents, don't you ever not comply with what we want you to do. You may have the perceived highest office in the land, but we control that office. And now they're saying, future presidents and Trump, don't you dare ever go against us because we control you. We control that office.
And another scary thing, I agree with you 100%. Another scary thing is this lawsuit, the recent lawsuit against President Trump and his campaign in Colorado, where they want to toss him off of the ballot there. This is reminiscent. My twin brother, actually lived in Hong Kong for several years, for over a decade, and he saw the political atmosphere change as China took more and more control over Hong Kong, which they were not supposed to do. They promised they wouldn't do it, but they went ahead anyway. They're communists. This is what communists do. And so the people of Hong Kong would want to run a slate of candidates, and the Chinese communists would come in and say, no, they're not acceptable. Here's who you can run. And so this is a Marxist play. Don't be fooled. I hope none of your audience is fooled on this, whether they're conservative, Democrat, independent. Don't be fooled. They're using the same tactics of the Marxist Chinese to delegate who we can run as Republicans, who's going to be acceptable. So what are we going to be left with? I mean, is it Chris Christie or Nikki Haley? Is that going to be our options? It's pure Marxism. And I think if people look through history, they'll find examples of this. What's happening in America today? It's very frightening. I think that's part of goes back to your first question, why people are uneasy and they're frightened. They see that things are changing. We have a government today. I'm in the lawsuit, the Missouri-Louisiana lawsuit. We're the lead plaintiff in this lawsuit. And it's going after the government saying, you can't censor private citizens. You can't use the government to censor speech. Something that we're all aware of is in the Constitution and has been for over 250 years or nearly 250 years. And so, but they insist that they're going to do it. And they fought back when the judge ruled this is out of line. They can't do this. The next day, Biden administration sent in a rebuttal saying, yes, we can. We are determined to censor speech in America. That is the government today. And it's frightening. And I know that the media has done a very good job, the media of all places, right? Promoting the idea that there's disinformation and misinformation, and some things shouldn't be said and some things are okay, and they're always wrong. Whenever they say something is misinformation, 2, 3, 4 months later, they're always wrong. But it's frightening. I think that's one aspect too of why Americans are frightened today. And see, they feel it. They see what's happening to our country.
Yeah, your example of China controlling who's allowed to be put forward is really interesting. I just finished a book about Bonhoeffer, this Christian pastor in Germany that chose to stay instead of flee to America. And in the book, he talks about how when Christian pastors or bishops in Germany would get sick, the Nazi government would send a replacement, and that became the new pastor. And suddenly we can have Jesus on the wall, but we also need to have the Fuhrer, right? We need to have Hitler there because he's a great leader, right? And then eventually Jesus came down and it was just the Fuhrer. And then they started removing the Bible, and basically then they were just teaching Nazism. And so this idea of controlling the people, they're boiling us like a frog, just little changes at a time, but we're feeling it. We're feeling the heat. And we know it. We're conscious in our wallet. Wait a minute. You keep telling me inflation's over, that it's transitory. Then why is everything so damn expensive? Why is life so expensive? Why does it feel like we have a criminal for a president when all they keep telling us is that the last president was the criminal, right? It's like it's 1984. They're trying to brainwash us over and over again. I wanted to stay on topic. You brought up the Colorado keep Trump off the ballot because of January 6th lawsuit. I know you guys covered this, but when Representative Eric Swalwell was not under oath, he went on every media outlet he could saying that Trump was calling for violence, that he was in on the Capitol riot, that they were going to find communications and threads to tie him back to all of these crazy white supremacy groups, and that he belonged in jail. Then they put him under oath, and I've never seen a more nervous, docile human being. He said no less than 5 times that Trump called for peace and no violence. Wow. The exact opposite of what he says when he's not under oath. I mean, do you think that Democrats will ever be held responsible for all the lies and defamation against Trump and against people like you and me as they try to control us?
Oh, I certainly hope so. And that's really the only hope for the country. We know that there has to be legal consequences for what these people have done. You know, we're going to put up a story later today about how at first they went after the people who were violent on January 6th, but only some of them. We still don't know who some of these people are, right? And then they went after people who walked through the Capitol, and then they called them all insurrectionists. Then they charged them with this felony count 1512, and you know, something they've never used in 100 years since the Civil War, against all these Trump supporters. Now today we're finding out this attorney wrote on Twitter that they're starting to arrest now people who were just standing outside, who didn't do anything, who didn't commit any violence, and now they're starting to arrest those people. And so, you know, of course, that violates everything in the Constitution, but they're going to do it. And they're going to continue to do it until there are enough Republicans who have a spine, male or female, who stand up and say, enough of this, this is illegal, and they start fighting back. And fighting back meaning file their own lawsuits. They're just lawsuits, not this garbage that is happening. Our government, isn't that amazing? They're using all of these resources to go after innocent Americans, grandmothers. You know, we've seen the video. The grandmother walks in the Capitol with the MAGA flag, and the next thing she knows, she has to go to jail for 2 months. It's incredible. They're spending so much of their resources going after these Trump people. And then this week, finally, they admit, after the violent attack in Israel, they're saying, oh, by the way, our border's wide open. It may be a dangerous situation. There's 9 million people who've crossed into our country, who've walked across the border, don't really know who they are. We suspect that there's probably some violent people who crossed over, and we're going to start looking at that, and we're going to pay attention to that. And you're like, you know, why weren't you looking at this you know, when Joe Biden came in office? The border's been open for 3 years now. It really is. It's unbelievable that they are doing what they're doing to this country, this open border. Think of that. They've let more people in than like the population of most states. I think there's 10 states now that have more population than what Joe Biden let walk across the border. And it's just it's devastating. Elon Musk was on with Joe Rogan yesterday and explained this. And we know that Soros is promoting all of these policies. But Elon Musk says, I think George Soros is against humanity, and he wants the breakdown of civilization. And when you see a policy like this, where you're promoting something like this, it is so devastating and so harmful to our country and to Western culture. We see the same thing in Europe. It's apparent. He wants to bring down civilization. You know, there's no good ending to this plot, to this storyline. It's going to be horrific, and he knows it, and the people who are pushing this know this. But for something I can't explain, they continue to do it anyway.
Yeah, I love that Elon Musk went to the border and not only showed how bad it was, gave his own testimonial of how bad it was, but then he called for more independent journalists to step forward and start sharing the truth. Make your voice heard. Do not be afraid, because otherwise we're overrun. We don't know who is coming into the country. And like my family, we're immigrants from generations back, but we came legally. And I know lots of people that came here legally. It's all the people that we don't know who they are. And many of them, I'm sure, they're just looking for a better opportunity, a way to make money, send that money back to their family. I get it. I've lived outside the United States. I've lived in third world countries. It's scary. The poverty is scary. And yet we also know that there's tons of people, gangs, terrorists, they're coming across the border, and they don't know who's who. It's really quite terrifying. And yet they seem to care more about Ukraine's border than they do, you know, our own border. And now we have this situation going on over in Israel. Now, on October 7th, before that, all the talk was about the Biden crime family. The Republicans were finally going to show the evidence. And then the tragedy happened with Israel, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But ever since then, it's almost like Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's crimes were just swept under the rug. He gets away with the gun stuff. We're not really finding anything. The Democrats are using this opportunity to belittle Republicans over and over again, saying that this is now a witch hunt. It's crazy. Is there ever going to be any kind of accountability for the Biden family?
I'm hoping that this new speaker, Mike Johnson, has enough courage to do what is obvious to, I think, a strong segment of society, and that is to call in Hunter Biden to testify under oath. They should have Joe Biden come in and testify under oath, and then press charges, because they have all the information now. They have the bank statements. It's frustrating because we do see this onslaught by the left to destroy this country, to the absolute power, this grasp for absolute power. And we don't see these on the Republican side. You just don't see these people standing up. There's a couple, but I mean, when you look at this border, it's an emergency situation. They should be screaming about that every single day. And with the Bidens, it's like shooting fish in a barrel, finding the crimes that they've committed. From what we see, by the way, Nancy Mace, the representative from South Carolina, had said she thinks the amount of grift and bribes they took was upwards from 50 million. So and they're going after Trump for who has these. If anyone's ever stayed at a Trump hotel, it's a beautiful place. They take good care of it. It's an experience. Biden's, we don't know what they have, again, except classified documents in their garage behind the Corvette that they purchased after some deal with China, and that's the only product we see that they've produced in their life.
Yeah, just today, Republicans announced another $40,000 check that just randomly showed up from James Biden. And of course, immediately, with no background, the Democrats come, this is another loan. This is another loan. And you look at his other brother, the $200,000 loan. The guy's on the verge of bankruptcy. He's got taxpayers to pay for some of his business stuff, I think building houses. And this money comes in, and then the exact same day he pays back Joe Biden. Doesn't keep anything to cover his own bills or costs. It sure looks like he acted as a pass-through entity. So I'm not sure if this is like tax evasion or genuine fraud. We're going to have to wait for the Republicans. But I keep wondering, where are the conservatives with courage to step forward? And maybe they're just so bought and paid for by donors that they can't be truthful, or else they'll lose their power. I can't make heads or tails of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's you scratch your head wondering where are they? I mean, it doesn't take a great intellect to see that there's something going on here, that and they have all the goods now. They have all of these bank statements. They have Hunter Biden's laptop that's full of all of these different crimes and these emails, and the fact that he was sending classified information to sources in Ukraine. We believe from one of those emails. I mean, there's a couple of the emails they believe it's classified information he's sending around. Where would he get that? Where would Hunter get that? Well, of course, from his dad. So I think there's plenty of material there, and they need to do what's right. If Joe Biden skates, that would be a tragedy. That would just be tragic at this point in history. And I did predict that Republicans will let Joe Biden will never be impeached. And I predicted that with Kevin McCarthy and I predicted that probably about 4 or 5 months ago now. But with Mike Johnson, it's kind of a wild card thrown in there. And I hope that they have the courage to do what's right. It's not. I don't think it's an obvious choice. I don't think it's oh gosh, there's maybe not enough information. I think the information, everybody can see it's there. It's just like, have the courage to do what's right. And we have to stop these people, you know, and I'm not calling for guns or anything, you know, I'm just saying, but people like this, the only thing it appears that they respect and is power, raw power. And you have to come back with them doing the same things that they've done to us, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure you guys saw this. I don't know if you covered it or not, but just yesterday, uh, these fake emails and fake names that Joe Biden was using, they found 84,000 pages of material. I'm like, I'm trying to imagine like an 84,000 page book, you know, like I can't, my brain
Right.
can't even comprehend like this one's like 900 pages, you know, it's like 84,000 pages. Why would a vice president need a fake email except for corruption?
Absolutely. And again, he sure had a lot of free time on, you know, for to be able to send out that amount of you know, email content, 84,000 pages. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, the evidence is there. Again, I think we're waiting for them to take some action. In the meantime, you know, President Trump is also being sued by some woman who said he raped her in a department store in New York City, and he's like, I've never even seen this woman. He met her once. There's a picture because he knew her husband was a reporter in New York, and so there was a picture of the three of them. He's like, I don't know who this woman is. She's so crazy. I mean, we reported on her. She paints the trees blue in her yard, and she has a dog and I think a cat she calls Miss Vagina or something. It's just she's out of her mind, and she's a big Trump fan, and she said that in the past. You know, she was obsessed with Trump when he was on The Apprentice, and so it's just you know, as Lara Logan said, you know, if you're raped by somebody, you don't generally stalk them, then, you know,
or go
and
back to
watch
the department store a dozen times.
right, and watch their show each week and not miss it. Yeah, it's, I mean, this is the type of stuff they're throwing at him that never should have got this far. Same thing. I think you could say that about every case that he's facing right now. So
What's interesting what's interesting is that he lost the 5 million, right? And basically the ruling was okay, we're not saying that you raped her, but we're saying that you can't say that you didn't rape her. you can't defend yourself. And that's exactly what we're seeing with these gag orders and trying to scare him into not being able to use his First Amendment rights to tell his 80 million voters, you know, hey, here's what's going on with me as I try to become your next president. Yeah. This taking away the freedom of speech, our forefathers knew that this was really, really damaging. And now they're using that God-given right against us and against Donald Trump.
I agree with you again, 100%. And it's at the same time too that this is happening, then they're leaking information out to the press on a weekly basis, sometimes a daily basis, to smear Trump in these lawsuits. These dirty prosecutors are leaking little items out to the press. Sometimes they're not even accurate, as we saw with Mark Meadows. They were leaking information on him, and but they're allowed to do this, and Jack Smith is allowed to do this, but Trump can't, like you said, defend himself. I think they hired, and I wrote about this, I think they hired Jack Smith not because he's a brilliant, you know, attorney with exquisite arguments. I believe they hired him because he's a hitman. He's a thug. He took out Governor McDonnell from Virginia a few years back, a very popular governor. The left was very concerned he was going to be a potential Republican presidential candidate. They called in Jack Smith. He filed some bogus charges against McDonnell that later were completely dropped by the Supreme Court, like 8-0. They dropped the charges against McDonnell, but he was already gone. Wow. So Jack Smith did his job. He was the hitman. He took McDonnell out. So now, of all of the attorneys that they could hire from the Department of Justice. And why this guy still has a job is unbelievable. You know, I can't explain that. But of all the attorneys, they hired Jack Smith to take on Trump. He's not there to win a case. I'm telling you right now. He's there to make sure that Trump does not enter the White House and that he is thrown out before the election. He's the hitman of the left. It's not about the case. It's about Jack Smith doing everything he can to destroy Trump before the election. I'm convinced of that.
Wow. Jim, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're traveling to Florida and you're going to watch that. I have Dinesh D'Souza coming on my show next week. I'm excited about that. If people want to continue to follow you and be kept in the loop, is going to Gateway Pundit the best way to do that?
Yeah, generally that's the best way. And I loved what you said when we were speaking earlier. Yeah, if you go to thegatewaypundit.com, you can find us. Sometimes if you go to social media, our stuff will not pop up, you know, and it's been that way for a while. But the good news is, Stephen, our numbers continue to grow year over year. And so people, they look for us, they find us, despite what the regime is trying to do to prevent our voice from getting out there.
Yeah, well, keep doing what you're doing. I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and we'll just chip away at this ice block one day at a time. But thank you again for coming on. I'll make sure to put that link down below. And thank you again. I hope you have safe travel and a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Stephen.